Sense of Soul.
Hey Soul Seekers, it's Shanna. Journey with me to discover how people around the world awaken to their true sense of soul. Now go grab your coffee. Open your mind, heart, and soul.
It's time to awaken.
Are you in the mood for a little spring cleaning? Well, then I have the guest for you. Today on Sense of Soul, we have Stacy Scott. She's an internationally known trauma healer, decluttering expert, Feng Shui practitioner, and occupational therapist. Stacy seamlessly blends her wisdom into a unique paradigm for healing trauma and solidifying success, healing through your home and making your home your sanctuary. Please welcome Stacy Scott. Hello, my darling. I need you in my life.
Do you now? I love it.
You know, literally last night, my two daughters, one is 25 and one is 12.
Okay,
And I have two boys too, but I'm talking about my girls. And they were watching Hoarders.
Oh, I feel so many feels about hoarders. I could talk for days.
Can you? Because you know what? It triggers everybody here because we have a lot of areas that are cluttered for some reason. There's certain areas
Yeah.
that we each have our own problem area, right? And we all have ADHD.
Let me just take a step back and just start off with the home is literally a tapestry for our subconscious mind. You know, I think the last time I was here, which was already a couple of years ago already, this wisdom had actually, I had just downloaded it. Like, I didn't know whether I was coming or going with it. Like, I didn't even really get a chance to share it, but it was like percolating in my mind and on my heart.
I've been there with stuff. Yes.
Oh my gosh. I'm just so thankful to be here today to be able to share it and that I kept going because I'm just seeing it left and right with people in all the conversations that I have and the healings that I do with my folks and in myself, that the home really is this tapestry of our subconscious mind. And I don't want anybody to think that that means like that a messy home is their messy mind, because I find that those phrases that you typically see in the decluttering world to be very, very shamey. They don't help you. They're not empowering. And what's really causing a lot of the resistance to decluttering is your nervous system. There is something in your past, whether that was when you were a child or 6 months ago, where a prior version of you learned something that created the resistance to the physical act of decluttering. What you're actually feeling is basically just an emotion that's trapped in the body that wants to come out, but using these like shamey phrases or watching things like Hoarders, if you're using it for motivation, is not going to get you there, because we're really just paving your pathway to decluttering with shame and burden and blame and anxiety. So, you know, shows like Hoarders are, which I hate, by the way, that we use people's trauma as entertainment, but welcome to America. We do that left and right. Hoarders is not the only show that we do that with. But if you look at decluttering as a spectrum in terms of, you know, the entertainment industry as the lens, we have shows like Hoarders on one side that is very much like, don't be these people. Like, oh, don't you just feel so much better that you're not as bad as that? And then if you draw a line to shows like The Home Edit, where we're very much saying like, oh, you should be like these people. Everything needs to be color coded, which I love, by the way.
Yeah,
But,
my little one does too.
Really feel like if they're not perfectly organized, you know, if there's even like one toy on the floor, speaking of kids, or shoes by the door, dishes in the sink, you are somehow failing because your home doesn't end up looking like these afters on The Home Edit. So you have folks in our country where we've created this hierarchy that says if you're a hoarder, you are dirty, messy, trashy, disgusting. You clearly have massive mental health issues. But if you're at the top of the pinnacle and you have a home that is Instagram ready, it always looks perfect, you have all of these organizational systems, you are the cream of the crop. You are someone who has it all together. Everybody should really emulate you. And I find it's actually the exact opposite when it comes to decluttering in a trauma-informed way, a loving way, an empowering way, that we really need to look at it more as a spectrum. That if you have some resistance to decluttering, we just have to kind of move your body closer to whatever is neutral for you. And some people can actually over declutter. That isn't thing when we have such a need for control in our bodies that then we are projecting that out onto our spaces, which that was actually me. I grew up in a very, very cluttered household, lots of abuse as well. We find that sometimes that goes hands in hand. And so I was developed this coping strategy as a child of like, well, I'm never going to be like that. So I used minimalism to actually help me feel a sense of security and control in my body because I had none. And I projected all that out onto my space. But what society said was, oh, well, you're doing fabulous. Like everybody would just fawn over me and how fabulous my room looked because it was always neat as a pin. But what they weren't seeing was that I couldn't go to sleep unless every single thing in my room was perfect. I'm talking every book, pillow, knickknack. The bed, I had to open up the bed like the perfect way and shimmy in and then close the covers and just be like so small in the bed so I didn't mess up the bed. Like it was really kind of intense and very OCD like. But of course, I couldn't see this because society just kept saying I was perfect. So I really want folks to look at decluttering from a more empowered way, that forgetting about this bullshit hierarchy, excuse my language, but more of this spectrum where if you are just somewhere that you don't want to be, let's just figure out how to relax your nervous system to the point where you don't over declutter and you don't under declutter. So I'm sure you have questions and I will slow down because I could
No,
talk for days.
no, that was beautiful. And you're right. I was thinking about many people that I know, who are on that other side.
Mhm.
And it's in the middle. It's the balance that we're all trying to achieve, no matter where you are in your life and no matter what we're talking about. It seems to always go back to this balance.
Yeah.
I think for me, anyways, it begins somewhere else. Okay. Which is usually with all things. It's about what
Root of
caused
it.
you to get in, right. And like you said, there was something that happened. And I think that mine's like stacked because I also have this thing like avoidance. I don't like avoidance, but this is something that I do.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that would
We all
probably
have our
be my
coping
biggest thing.
strategies.
So one of the things that if I'm stressed, right, I will shop online.
Yeah.
So, and then I end up buying things I don't need or just an updated version. So now you have two and you have to get rid of one. So, and I do call the junk people over all the time. I mean, probably once a season. Like, let's just get everything that we're no longer using out of here.
Mm.
But I might use this one day. So this is still usable. That
Yeah.
also, I'm a Taurus. I mean, I'm just going to admit it. I hold on to things.
I'm a Taurus moon. I love things. I love
Okay.
luxury. I love high quality things. I'm with you there.
Yeah. And I'm very sentimental. I go along with all the Taurus. I really am like that. And then I look back at the patterns of my family, and you said you went opposite. And I feel like that's kind of how it is, right? You have an alcoholic parent, you either an alcoholic or somehow you're like, I will never drink again in my life, or whatever the case is. I feel like both of my parents had this.
Yeah. So you bring up a couple good points. So everybody's coping mechanisms that develop are going to develop a little bit differently. Sometimes we end up creating the same conditions of chaos that we are used to. I
Mhm.
hear it often from folks that they keep their clutter because it makes them feel safe,
Mm.
because they grew up in a very abusive or energetically chaotic household, and possessions just gave them a feeling of security, that security blanket. Or you have folks like me who went the complete opposite direction. So that's why I like to teach this according to a spectrum, because nobody knows where you need to end up except for you.
Mm.
And we all have all developed a lot of coping mechanisms around the clutter. And you bring in a really good point about money. Money plays such a huge role in not only how we feel about decluttering. Because I think the thing I hear most often from people is, well, I spent money on this, or this is still usable, or what if I need it one day? And I am not someone who ever advocates for getting rid of it all. I am not a minimalist. I am not a maximalist. I don't believe in those labels or those boxes. I believe in you. I believe in you understanding what your nervous system needs from your home to heal you, to thrive. Because again, your home is the subconscious tapestry. It's going to change and shift depending on where you are in life. So, like for me right now, I just had a baby about 7 months ago. So, my home is naturally going to have more possessions in it right now. But I think people think I'm lying when I say that my home doesn't trigger me. When there's dishes and bottles all over the place, where there's toys all over the floor, it doesn't trigger me because I know within myself when I reach a point where my home starts to tip into too much clutter or it needs a clean, I know what that feels like in my body. I know what that feels like in my nervous system. I know what patterns I end up then moving into. My husband's as well. I know his patterns and I'm like, you're doing it. Well, I guess we need to clean the house. And so it doesn't bother me. And this is what I hope for every single person, that they come to accept where they are in life, whether or not that's possible to keep the perfect home that they might have in their mind. And just understanding that home is this flexible fabric. It's not this, you set it once and it's dead kind of thing. We tend to think of our homes as this very dead, static thing. We never want something to break. We never want to have to deal with it again, right? But home, think of it a little bit like a toddler. It's got a mind of its own, but it's also got a whole lot of you in it. So you're dealing with this kind of extra sensory organ that is outside of your body, but that very much is a container for your energy and your subconscious mind and your belief system. So anything we feel, just to go back to money really quickly about and possessions. So anything we feel about money is also going to come out in our home, in our possessions, our relationship to our possessions. Notice how I'm not using the word clutter, because the actual definition of clutter is an untidy heap or trash. So subconsciously, we're calling our possessions trash. But if we have relationship to our possessions, we are calling ourselves trash. So let that sink in. The more we come to terms that we have a relationship to all of these possessions, and that what is then kind of over the blanket or the perception, the perspective overlaying that relationship to our possessions is how we feel about money. And whether or not we can't let go of something because we're living in a lot of lack, because if we let it go, we're not sure we'd be able to buy it again, which of course is a very real concern in this economy. I'm not shaming anybody for that.
Yeah.
But also then you have this, what you were saying before about, well, I declutter really regularly, but then I can't sit in the open space. I have to then refill it with something. I'm feeling lack in a different way. And so it's our job to get to the roots of all of that. And a lot of times the origin story or the original experience had nothing to do with possessions and everything to do about the emotional nurturing we received in our childhood.
I oftentimes have referred to the five love languages. It was one of the first books I read, gosh, ever. And then I read the one about children, which was really neat too.
Yeah.
But I realized that, that they say, you can ask yourself, how does your mom love you? And this is how you can find out, what you are. And it's interesting because I asked all my children, that was hilarious. I asked my partner, I asked my partner, he said, oh, well, my mom always gives me a big hug every time we see her. I wanted to test it out on my daughter when she was in high school back then. And I said, when she walked in the door, I gave her a big hug and she goes, why did you do that? I said, because I love you. And she's like, don't do that again. I was like, well, how do you know I love you? She said, I like when we go on journeys and we have fun together. So hers is time. And I thought, how does my mom love me? And it's gifts, gifts. It is material things. Anytime she, was mad or whatever, or I was mad, she'd show up with a purse or, a new outfit or whatever it is. And we'd be like, oh, thank you. I'm all in it. I know you love me kind of thing.
Yeah.
So things became worth more than the tag, right?
Yeah. So it sounds like, I mean, you just pinpointed the origin story of it. I mean, and not that your mom was doing anything wrong in that situation. We certainly don't blame. We just learn from our experiences and we move
Yeah.
on. We heal from them. And
She gave me this beautiful thing.
oh, that's so pretty though.
She
Oh,
bought it
that's so
in New
pretty. Look at the crystal
Orleans,
on that.
right? She bought it in New Orleans.
Oh, love New Orleans.
So out
Stop.
of all of the many bracelets that I have, this is one that I've managed to keep. I've had it like maybe over a decade. But you're
Yeah,
right.
it's so pretty. Yeah. And so like we can also, the beautiful thing about coping mechanisms is as soon as we become aware of them
Mhm.
and we feel a little down about it, that means that the coping mechanism is no longer working for you and you are in the perfect position to build something new. So as soon as you see it, you have awareness. We can't fix or heal things we don't see, that we aren't ready to see. So as soon as you see it, you can change it. So if that was ever something you wanted to shift, you can. But if it's still working for you, it still feels good in your system, then we keep rocking on with it, even if it's a coping mechanism. It doesn't have to be a negative one. So that's why I'm so not here for the shaming of people with their possessions. I'm so not here for telling people how many possessions they're allowed to have or to just get rid of it, or why aren't you minimalist enough? Do you know how much simpler your life would be? Because you know what? The road to simplicity and joy is not, you can't build on a foundation of shame. So the road to simplicity and joy is not really real unless you're building on self-love and empowerment. And that brings me back to, the show Hoarders. If you are sitting there, and this is not to shame you, but to really open up your eyes, if you were sitting there and thinking, well, thank God I'm not that way, those people need a lot of help. And even if you're saying it internally in a very loving way, your inner foundation is still not built on self-love. It's built on, well, thank God I'm not that person. It's built on judgment around you and your home and what your home looks like, especially as women from the 1940s, 1950s on. Women were judged based on what their children were doing, what their homes looked like, family lore, I call it, like how your parents were parented, and all the way down. We've got all that generational trauma rolling on downhill. And women still feel like they have to make amends for how their homes look like. How many times do you walk over to a friend's house and they say, oh, ignore the mess? Or they might like pin it on their kid and like in a loving way, but like, oh my God, he was just playing with all those toys. That's why the floor is a mess.
Yeah.
But like
Shame.
we're sort of pinning it on them when it's like, just come on in. This is our life. If it's not works for you, then I love you, but there's the door. But we're
Yeah.
still not ready to have that conversation and get to that point yet. So you have all these different societal, cultural, familial, trauma-based things that are falling into this possession soup,
Yeah.
that is making this, that's creating this resistance in our bodies to either stop over decluttering or to stop under decluttering.
Right. I used to really truly believe, and I even recommended to other women, shamefully, this is the shame, that your husband will be happier if he comes home
Yeah.
to a clean house.
But we also know men don't like pay attention to it at all in a lot of ways.
Well, yeah, probably not to the things that you spent hours doing.
Yeah.
But, I remember you're home all day with the kids,
Yeah.
what are you doing? Eating
Yeah,
bonbons?
exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And I'm
But we
like,
know what we're doing. We're busy.
yeah. And the fact that I had to clean it to make sure it made, that it made you feel comfortable, right? And then worry about what's coming for dinner. I mean, women have a lot in their plate and have never, ever gotten
Mhm.
any recognition
Yeah.
for it as being a job, which I think being a mother is the most important job.
It's a 24-hour, 7 job. You do not get a break.
No, you're the CEO of your house, basically.
Mhm.
You're not given recognition. You're not getting paid for it. And half the time you're feeling guilt and shame around everything you're doing.
Yeah. Or not doing, because God forbid
Or
you
not
sit on the
doing.
couch
Or
for
not.
5 minutes while your kid is napping and you decide to shut your eyes, but God forbid there's dishes in the sink or there's
And
laundry to be done and folded. Like, yeah, it's an
you
stunning amount of shame that's put
and
on.
you made another point that I think people don't talk enough about is that we look for our children to make up for that.
Yeah, we pin it
Oh,
on.
I may be a mess, but my child's looking clean and they're going to represent how I look.
Exactly.
I've been there. I've done this. I still do it sometimes. I mean, we oftentimes will say, okay, declutter your rooms. Let's let some of these things go that we know that no longer serve us. I'm going to start changing my words. I think that's important. We need to talk about that.
Yeah.
But then it goes out to the hall. And then we have a hall issue.
Yeah.
And then when friends come over, I'm like, oh, excuse that stuff in the hallway. But that's what I said to them 6 months ago when we did this. But I
Yeah.
mean, it's different stuff. We're just,
You're
like
just
you
in that
said,
process again.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But the rooms are getting, less cluttered, but there is some sort of hamster wheel.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's
I
exhausting.
know it can make your brain explode. And that's why I feel like it's taken me so many years to finally put voice to this because there's so many different influences at
Oh
work
my
here.
God.
So many different influences.
I
Yeah.
just had the biggest aha moment though.
Tell me, please, let's unpack.
So I have one child who's on the spectrum who does not have attachments. He's the only person who doesn't have a problem with that. He doesn't have a problem with that. And you know what's interesting is his problem is trash and not being as clean, which my girls don't have issue with. None of us have that. Ours is more clutter, but his is he doesn't have that. He doesn't have mess outside of his room of stuff. He doesn't need everything all the time.
Yeah.
Whoa,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
And because he's wired differently,
Yeah.
nervous system wise.
His
Yeah.
mind isn't mind fucking him like
Yeah,
it is like it
exactly.
is us.
Yeah. And he's
Whoa.
just living, and I'm going to use this very positively, but
Simply.
in a different world from, the shame and the
Yes.
societal messages that,
He could care
we are
less.
picking up on at our level of nervous system,
He
wherever
could
that
care
is.
less, girl. He could
Yeah.
care less.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really weird to think about. A lot of people have stuff with attachment.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Because decluttering, the physical act of decluttering is really purging fear. We are purging the fear that we are somehow not enough, we are not lovable, we are unwanted. And I think for so many of this came from a childhood where we really just didn't get the love that we needed, even if we had great parents, even if they really tried their best. We maybe something was missing. We just did not get parented in the way that we needed. So a lot of us have trouble letting go of physical possessions because we can't let go ourselves. We
Right.
hold on to the memories where, something embarrassing happened in sixth grade, or where we farted in class, or where we said something silly, or we got broken up with, or you know what I mean? Like we hold on to these things. So
Wow.
the physical act of decluttering in my world, and which is why I do this, because I don't give a flying rat's ass what your home ends up looking like. We do this because you need to break your earthly bonds. This
Right.
world is changing. Our systems are crumbling in the best way. We have to learn how to rebuild, but we cannot rebuild holding on to all this grief, shame, blame, fear.
Right.
So the way I teach decluttering is very much inside out. We're going to release all of that in your body with somatics and somatic practices so that the physical act of decluttering, the actual picking up the box and taking it out to the car or wherever it's going, becomes more effortless because you have already released the stuck and pent up emotional energy that's creating the resistance in the body and then the subconscious mind in the first place.
Okay, this is such an individual thing. This is
Oh yeah,
very
everybody's different.
oh that's one thing I think I really needed to get from this today is that how I do it and why I do it is completely different than everybody else. I mean,
Yeah.
there might be some patterns that are the same because nature versus nurture, and they got both for me. However, like my youngest daughter, she's a minimalist.
And that's fine. She gets to
Her
have
thing,
that. Yeah.
her thing though, is that about every 6 months, she wants to change her entire scenery.
Hmm.
And it's down to the T. Like everything will have to be white. If there's one thing that's not, it's got to go. But I just bought you that like 6 months ago. It's got to go. I need it in white. You know what I mean? So but that's just as bad. These things are just as not bad. I need to
It's
change
just
my
the
word.
other side of the spectrum.
Right.
So in my world, nothing is negative. It's just maybe what we're moving through in the moment. So, for example, you know, I think we're millennials, millennial gray, millennial white, because you said white and it brought this up in my mind. That was a movement. You just had to be there. We were going ape shit over like gray and whites. But it was also this girl boss era, right? It was all this, drink your coffee, get out there, do your thing, build the business, struggle, do it. And it's so funny to me when I look back at home trends because home trends very much match the collective hive mind of what's happening at the time. Because in feng
Collectively?
shui, collectively, in
Ooh.
feng shui, white and gray is metal energy. And metal energy is very much creative. And, it's all about the throat chakra. It's speaking your piece, which is very girl bossy.
Mm.
But that's when it's in balance. When it's out of balance, it can be, when we have too much of it, it can feel a lot like anxiety. The mind monkeys just want to go a little bit too much. And I'm not saying that's what your daughter's dealing with at the
Yeah.
moment, but I know when I first started doing feng shui consults, when I started in 2020, I was going into all these millennials' homes and they were like, there were all these flipped homes. Everything, literally, the whole home was gray and white. And they're like, we love this home. We just bought it. Why do we hate it? Why have we been here 3 months and we are so snippy with each other? I cannot sleep. What is happening? I'm ready to quit my job. And I'm
Mm.
like, you have too much mental energy. So we can go off in this direction of too much of a good thing.
Yeah.
So, and now that we're moving into this more colorful maximalism era, which is this very kind of more Aquarius, do your own thing, come as you are, I
Mm.
just want to remind people not to go too far with it because a trend
Oh,
in the
no.
home is always going to be reflective of where this conscious collective is at that moment. But that might not necessarily mean, is it good for
Good for
you?
you.
But we're all going to move and shake constantly. That's why I say this home is not this dead thing. So if your daughter's feeling this need to purge and try a different color and try a different hat on for size, maybe in another 6 months she decides to do something different. And that's okay. She's a kid. She's allowed to throw shit at the wall and see what sticks.
And
Mhm.
now you can be, is it versatile that I want to say, where you can, get a new duvet or a new
Yeah.
cover, or you don't have to change.
New pillows. You don't have to change
Right.
everything.
Yes. Keep the main
New
frame.
artwork.
Yes. Right. She did go from having a lot of the cottage core. She went from cottage
Cottage
core.
core.
You're right. Cottage core was fun. Fun.
That was a fun era.
That
It
was
didn't
so
last
fun for
long
me.
enough, I feel
It
like,
did
but that was
not
fun.
last long in our house. It
No.
lasted about 6 months.
And I think kids now with so much internet, they're seeing just so many of these micro trends, which are just not making it
And if
to,
you're creative, it
yeah.
feeds you. And she
Yeah.
has that art creative,
And
inward.
then her room is going to be her little
Yes,
tapestry, and she gets
it's
to
so
try
true.
on all these different personas. Because again, the room is the tapestry. Well, the whole home is the tapestry to the subconscious mind, but your room is even more as a
When you're
kid,
in middle
your space,
school, it is
your
yes,
space.
yes,
Yeah, it's
yes.
how you're showing yourself. So
You
I think
wouldn't
when it comes to
believe.
kids, you just let them rock and roll. If they want to splash black paint on the wall, let them do it. It's how they're expressing themselves, and I love it.
I love that you're giving that advice because,
Yeah.
some people might think that, wow, you're redoing her room again. But she doesn't ask for much, and that is her sanctuary.
Yeah.
She's not asking me to spend thousands of dollars on sports a year. She wants a little space to do her art and play her
That's right.
violin,
Yeah.
and everyone is different. So I think that it's really important that we don't judge people because they don't do it the way you do it.
Exactly. That's what this whole conversation is about. I never create or help somebody create a home. Like my home business is literally called Sanctuary. I never help somebody create something based on rules that I think are right. I
Yeah.
want to get to the deeper nuggets of what they need to heal, thrive, and manifest. You can do all of that through your home, but I need to get to the root with you first so I understand what best to recommend. Rather than telling you should only have 15 books and you need to fold your sweaters in this way. And, you know, all of that is fine, but I don't believe in hard and fast rules at all.
Hmm.
And going back to the kid thing too, people thought I was a little wackadoo when I said I wasn't making my son a nursery. So he has a room, but I was not going to spend a lot of money on creating a nursery that I wanted, choosing colors that I wanted. It's his room. So we're leaving it as is until he is old enough to tell me what he wants.
100%. I did that. I actually have talked about this before. When my daughter Lindsay, who's now 25, when she was coming into the world,
Yeah.
I imagined her this
Right.
little soft ballerina, and I made her room Victorian. I
Oh, I
had
bet it's
this light,
gorgeous though.
light pink with, back then it was a wallpaper. I had like a little border of wallpaper with a little chair rail. And I did like this, what's it called? Tulle from the top of her bed.
Oh,
I mean, it was
made a
so
princess room.
beautiful.
Yeah.
By the time she was 3, I had to completely change it. It was like a bright purple with bright colors. She was nothing like that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Her
Yeah.
personality was not a little ballerina. And I even put her in ballet, and you should see how uncomfortable she looks in those pictures.
Oh,
Yes.
that's funny.
Yeah, she was more of a jazz dancer,
Yeah.
wasn't this delicate thing that I had, dreamt of having or thought of having. And of course, I love who she is, you're right. And
Yeah.
so it's very interesting how you're right. Before they're even born, we're planning out,
And
you know,
projecting onto
what
them
sports they're gonna play, yeah,
what
it's
kind of energy they're going to have when I think kids, and this is really what I got from my own childhood was I just wanted to be seen for me. I wanted somebody to help me understand who I am
yeah.
without using me. I also have a narcissistic mother, so without using me as a human shield to make her look feeling good about herself.
Mhm.
And so I am so careful to not do that to my son. And in the best way I knew how is to not plan his life for him based on color, artwork, and design, because I know how important Feng Shui is to the subconscious mind. Because as soon as you're putting that out into your home, it is reinforcing subconsciously what you believe. And
Yeah.
so when your little boy or little girl doesn't come out the way you envisioned them, are you going to be upset? I
Yeah.
think a lot of parents might, it's because we create this
Unfortunately.
this vision in our mind.
Yeah.
And so I tell parents, if you can, save your money. Just put it, do the bare essentials.
Yes.
Um, Here's the other thing that gets me about the how we create rooms for children is we put adult furniture in their rooms. Now this hits my heart as a occupational therapist, but we put adult furniture. We buy adult dressers. And for a tiny kid who can't get into an adult dresser, instead of
Yeah.
creating a room with child furniture that creates more of an independence for them. And then we get
Yeah.
upset that, so and so can't get their shoes and socks on or can't get themselves dressed in the morning. Well, we haven't set them up for success.
Hmm.
So that's neither here nor there.
This is very interesting. So it starts somewhere. So each of us need to figure out, we need to pinpoint. So
Mhm.
how do you lead someone or how do you lead your clients to doing that? You mentioned somatics. And then from there, can you give me an idea of like where to start? Because that's kind of what me and Lindsay always say to each other. I don't even know where to start, Mom. I don't,
Yeah.
I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah, that feeling of overwhelm is real, especially in the home. So for the somatics that I use with my one-to-one decluttering clients and everything it is built into everything that I offer, all workshops, everything is inner child healing. I have found that to be not just the methodology, but also the answer to releasing some of these really deep-seated traumas that maybe when you look at it rationally have nothing to do with possessions or clutter, but there's some sort of link in the body. So
Mhm.
inner child healing says that there is some prior version of you any resistance you feel to decluttering or even over decluttering, not resistance, but it would be if you are over decluttering,
Yeah.
there is a prior version of you who learned something, whether that was through a traumatic experience or somebody casually saying something to you as a child or even 6 months ago, any sort of experience that is still emotionally stuck in the body
Mm.
is what is creating the dysregulation in the nervous system that is then creating the physical resistance that you feel to decluttering or the physical over decluttering that you're seeing. So when I use inner child healing, it's very gentle. We guide people in, and usually within seconds, some sort of prior version of them steps forward and they're asking you as the adult, you now in the present, to give them something that they didn't get in that moment. And it's usually unconditional love, but it can be unconditional love. It can be feeling seen and heard. Sometimes our inner children are very, very angry and they just want space to rage and scream. I do
Right.
that a lot with people. And once that prior version of you has released the energy, and has said what they needed to say, and again, you're doing this all internally, I'm guiding you through it.
Wow.
It's like people they look 10 years younger. Something has been lifted off of them. And that's when it gets really good because
Yeah.
then I start to get the messages from people. They're like, I don't know what came over me. I just decluttered my entire closet in 2 hours. I just put a 32-pound bag in the car. I just did. This was my client who I'm currently working with. She told me this 2 days ago. I just decluttered my entire garage. I have not been able to fit a car in there in 7 years. She did it in a day. And that was after 4 sessions, if I do say so myself. So this stuff is really powerful, whether or not you believe that you had a traumatic childhood or not. It could be just a little
Okay.
grain of sand that your
Could
body is
it
holding on
be?
to energetically.
I noticed this a while back. Unfortunately, I remember when you're in trouble, go to your room. Your room no longer is a space for you to feel safe. It's a punishment area.
Or I'm going to take your
Or,
door off.
oh, actually, my dad did that one time.
That takes away your autonomy, your privacy, your sense of safety.
I was 16. He took my door off and lined up all of the Boone's Farm bottles that I drank to my friends on the top of my headboard.
That's pretty funny though.
And he took whatever out of my car because I couldn't drive it. And yeah, I was in trouble. So, but the other thing is can I do this? Clean your room or whatever you had to clean your room. Okay, I cleaned it. Shove everything in here real quick. I gotta go. Shove, 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 hide. And I also have done that most of my life. Say I have a bunch of clients coming over. I can clean in 2 seconds. Open the closet. Oh, pushing the
Because you
closet.
have because you have pressure. So when parents use you can't go out until you clean your room. You can't have dessert until you clean your room. Some sort of cause and effect.
Yeah.
Again, where you say then the home is not the place, I mean the room is not the place of sanctuary and safety to a kid. When you do that, you can't do something until you do XYZ.
Yeah.
What were you saying
What's
is
the rule?
like you said, your room now becomes punishment, chores become punishment, cleaning your room is now punishment, and then you cannot as an adult clean your room without some sort of external pressure or anxiety to
So
get
true.
your nervous
Get me to do
system
it. Yep.
out, to get your nervous system to do it. But what's happening is
Yep.
that's still a coping mechanism. You're not cleaning out of the sense
Yep.
of, I want to do something great for myself in my home
Nope.
today. It's, oh my God, somebody's coming over. I'm going to get in trouble. Or when you're a kid, oh
Yes.
my God, mom's coming home. I hear the garage door. I got to go do the dishes really fast.
Yep.
So it's internally, you're feeling anxiety and pressure and the sense of, yeah, you're going to get in trouble, like whatever that looked like in your house, whether that was an emotional tongue lashing, a physical, whether that was, the silence, the walking on
Yep.
eggshells and silence. So that's what I'm talking about coping
Wow.
mechanisms that will follow us from childhood into our adulthood.
Can you recommend or give myself or our listeners or watchers now a exercise or a suggestion that we can do to help us get closer to this?
Yes, yes, yes. So this is where I tell everybody to start because we can't heal what we can't see. So I don't want you taking anything I said today and using it to shame yourself. I know I speak very, very deeply and that can hurt. It took me many years to get comfortable with the truth bombs that I drop. So I
Yeah.
don't want you to take this to a negative place. So here's what I would like you to do. Anytime you catch yourself doing these things, I want you to notice what your body is feeling and what your mind is saying. This is that brain body connection that we have to heal. I would even take it a step further and say we're healing the brain body home connection.
Mhm.
So you can't understand how to stop the coping mechanisms if you are still very much asleep at the wheel as they're happening. So understanding that your body is feeling something as you are, hurriedly feeling
Yeah.
like you're going to get in trouble to do the dishes or your husband's coming home or your partner, or whatever it is. Stop and notice if you can what your body is feeling. You are feeling something somewhere. It might be a tightness in your throat, your jaw, your stomach might be getting upset, your kidneys might be hurting. That's where we feel fear in our bodies. So just stop and notice, but then also see if your mind is saying anything to you. So often our minds are saying that kind of nasty things to us. But remember, that is a prior version of you, an inner child, if you will, that is reaching up for your love and attention. But they have adopted a voice that is not yours. They've adopted your mom, your dad, your parent, the voice of society. So if you have a very icky voice that's saying kind of mean things to you, I need you to know two things are true at the same time. That one, that voice is not yours. But
Mhm.
two, that is a prior version of you who is asking you to slow down, to stop, and to sit with them and say, okay, I'm here for you now. I love you. I'm the adult in the room. I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to give you everything that you didn't get in that moment.
Mhm.
So hopefully that's clear. I can tend to ramble, but
Mhm.
just stop if you can. That is how we heal that. I cannot possibly tell well, you're supposed to get to the root of it. But don't worry about that. Don't worry about the whys just yet. Worry about what you're feeling in the present moment. That will open up untold doors for you to heal all of this. So, yes.
Okay, so here's one for you.
Yeah, lay it on me.
I needed a new couch because the couch was falling apart. And also, I got a white dog and the couch was dark. So, this was not working out for me when she started shedding. And I was like losing my mind about it. Okay. So, couch went out. And actually, it was a couch that was given to me. My mom was moving. It was like less expensive for her to give me the couch or get rid of the couch than for her to travel with it, across, 4 states. So, I ended up with the couch. The couch was great for a while and I got rid of it. So I got a new couch and then I just was like, I envisioned a whole new living room, which I did. I did. Of course, it was expensive, but it was fun and I was super happy and I was super proud. In fact,
Yeah.
I'll even share it with you.
It feels good to change our
Yeah.
homes around. It really does.
Just completely decluttered and looking amazing. Everything else in my house kind of stayed where it's at, but this
So
room is exactly where I want it.
it's funny, anytime we get something new, we tend to treat it very preciously.
True.
right? Especially if it was more on the expensive side, like a new couch. You're not dropping that kind of money every single day on a new
And I got a
couch.
dog. I got a dog couch too. Well done.
My dog is jealous.
Yeah, I had to because I was sick of the dogs, ruining couches. So not ruining couches, but our dogs are also our babies, and so we allow them on the couches.
Same with my dog. My dog's in bed with me.
Oh yeah, yeah, takes over my
Love
bed.
him. But we get these new things, and because we live in a very capitalistic society, there is no way any of us are able to step outside of capitalistic bounds.
True.
We get new things and we treat them very preciously. And then we have trouble parting with them because we spent money on them. Maybe we spent a great deal of money on them because we still don't believe that money can come to us easily without a ton of effort.
Yeah.
So that really makes our bodies want to hold on even more, especially if we had experiences as a kid where maybe we didn't get something we wanted, or we were told we couldn't get the toy that we wanted unless we brought home good grades. That
Mhm.
happens to a lot of kids. So it's a very interesting thing. So anytime we get something new, we're very much like that. We don't want it to be used because we need to save it. We need to savor it. A
Oh
lot
my
of women
God, I know.
do
I'm
this.
like, don't sit on the couch.
Right? No, we got to save it. That's why, like, my grandparents had plastic on their couch. It was that
Right?
silent generation to a T.
Oh my God,
Don't
hilarious.
touch the couch. We're gonna
Yes.
make this couch the couch of hell and torture with this plastic cover because God forbid this
Yeah.
couch gets used and gets loved.
I've definitely had friends who had houses like that where you weren't even allowed to walk in certain rooms.
Hmm.
It's like, what's the point of having a living room if you can't live in it, right?
Yes. And actually, Feng Shui says any room that you have that doesn't get used is actually dead energy. It's draining on your chi or your energy if you have whole rooms that don't get touched. So that's
Right?
why, like, when I have two people, like a couple with, like, let's say they're boomers and their kids are out of the house and they're in this huge home and they're like, I just don't know why this home doesn't feel good anymore. I'm like, because you have huge dead pockets.
Right.
But
Really
it's
like how
fine.
it turned out. It makes me feel calm.
Yes. Beautiful.
But then if I turn to the other room that's not finished, I'm like,
Yes.
and
You
so
feel it.
you're saying, pay attention to how you feel.
Mhm.
Panic sets in. And I do know what I'm feeling in my body, but I need to listen. I need to listen what's going on in my head
Because
when I
yes, I would argue that the panic that you're feeling about the room right next door not looking as beautiful as this one is
Mhm,
a learned behavior. And that so often we carry in our minds and our bodies these kind of negative things about our spaces.
mhm,
Oh, well, this room's a mess, or why can't I ever keep this clean? Or, oh, just that, judgmenty feeling, whatever it is. Um, but if we think about manifesting principles, all of that is playing in your mind just on repeats. So, what I usually tell people when you have a space, a junky closet, a drawer you can't seem to declutter, a whole room that just kind of makes you feel weird, is to
right,
actually send it some love. And I know that's hard because what you're doing is you're sending yourself love by saying, okay, room, you are
right,
not quite where I want you, but I'm not going to hate on you. You have been loved. You have furniture that has been with me for many, many years. Maybe I'm making things up
yeah,
now for you, but I mean, look at how much life has been lived in this room. I played with my
yeah,
kids on that floor. I kissed my husband there, or my partner, or my spouse. So I want you to remember the life that has been lived in these rooms and let that fill you with happiness and peace and gratitude,
look at my
and
dog.
then knowing that you still can change it, but that will soften that panic that you feel in your body of, oh my God, this room is not as good as this room.
Right. So when I was getting the couches, or when I got this white couch, I wasn't sure I was going to put anything there. I was going to put a table. My kids looked at me and said, "But Mom, Ayla's favorite thing to do is look out the window." So I was like, "You're right. I have to get a dog couch." So I got one that was, you know, easy to clean. The material doesn't hold fur, right? It's not white. And yeah, I just thought that it would be a good dog couch. And it wasn't very expensive, but it was
Yeah.
nice, it was nice for
It's
dog. And she likes it.
It was you. I love this so much because it's you paying attention to the actual needs of your home
Yes.
and your family and the
Yeah.
energy of your space. Like if that is where your dog loves to be, why take that away from your dog? Especially because dogs bring so much loving
Yep.
energy to us. So, I think what you did there is it's not a common thing. I think people have it in their minds what they expect home to look like. And if they expect it to look like something that leapt off of a magazine or off of Instagram.
Right.
And I think we forget really what our homes need from us.
Right.
And they're going to give, if we put
That's
that
the
love
thing.
and intention into it, we are absolutely getting that back in spades. So I love that so much. Your dog must be so happy.
Okay, well, and I'm leaving this conversation feeling proud of myself. So
Good.
thank you. And not shameful, because I even thought about that. Isn't that strange? I'm like, by the time I get off with her, probably going to feel so yucky about all of this stuff. And if I don't get it done, I'm going to even feel worse about myself.
No, no, no.
I've been
So
there.
I know, because that's how we talk about decluttering in this
Right.
country. We use shaming phrases. I have to like block everybody that I see on Instagram or TikTok that's also in the decluttering space because I just don't agree with
Mm.
how they're doing it. They get to do it however they want to do it, but I have seen this work miracles in people's lives by just changing our perception of our possessions. So I like to tell people you don't have to open up a trash bag and get rid of it all. You don't have to declutter a whole closet or a garage in 5 days. Like, stop listening to that because it's not feasible and it's just going to dysregulate your body more and cause more feeling of shame to rise up in your body. So I like to tell people to declutter according to timelines.
Okay.
When we feel ready to let it go. And then, of course, the question is, well, when do you feel ready? It goes back to what I just gave all your listeners. Stop for a moment. When those coping mechanisms start to pop up, that means they're ready to be shifted. And
Okay.
that's such a beautiful thing because that means you evolved. That means that coping mechanism is no longer working for you because you are going forward. That is beautiful. So when you are ready to declutter, that means you are moving forward. You are walking your journey. You are becoming in greater alignment with who you are and where you need to go. So that is a beautiful thing. So we do not force decluttering here. If you never get to it, I still love you. You're still perfect. You're still a good person. And I think you are productive, not lazy. And you are worthy of love no matter what your home looks like in this moment. You are already a good person.
Oh my gosh, you are a great person. I just love you so much. And definitely some of the corners of my house are calling me. They're no longer serving me. This coping mechanism is not serving me. And I
That's
want
okay.
every room to look like this one because it makes me feel good.
Yeah.
Makes me feel good. Not that I haven't even invited anybody over to see it. It's not about showing it off. Like you said, it was very personal,
Yeah.
how I did everything. And I did everything for a reason. There's all kinds of
And you
storage involved, that we needed. Everything I bought, I wanted it to be functional.
Yeah. And you listen to your intuition. That's really the takeaway there is no matter what it ends up looking like, is did you use your intuition to arrive there? Then it is absolutely you and your home meeting the moment of where you are right now, knowing that that might change, like your daughter in 6 months, that might change in 6 years. It doesn't matter. We are allowed to grow and thrive right alongside our home because we are manifesting through our space. We didn't even get to touch on that. We absolutely can manifest through our homes. We heal through our homes. And I just love that you're already doing that because your intuition is so spot on. You just did it naturally.
Well, if everybody wants to come and find you to learn more about the other things that you speak of, tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube under the handle Sanctuary with Stacy. You can also find me on my website, stacyscott.co. And yeah, I have, I do one-to-one with people. It's a 4-month journey. I've got all sorts of workshops. And actually, the thing that is most heavy on my heart to build right now for the rest of this year is a membership because people are just coming at this from all different angles. And I really want to be able to meet people where they are in their healing journeys, which means being able to meet people at various different points. So that is coming, but you can come and learn more and just hang out in my world.
Mm. I'm definitely hanging out in your world, and I think my daughters are going to be too. My oldest daughter was like, "Where is she? Can I hire her? I'll
Oh,
come tomorrow."
we can feng shui your space. I love to get my hands on people's spaces and,
Yeah.
help them see the deeper meaning behind what they're doing and, really uplift them. 'Cause that is my greatest goal. If I have failed if you don't walk away from any sort of experience with me feeling good about yourself and where you're headed, knowing that you might need to do some work. I don't let you get away from it, but I want you to feel good about, okay, I got to do this work, but I can feel good about who I am and where I am right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's about you feeling good, not
Yeah.
about trying to please anybody else
No,
it's about you.
your mother-in-law.
Did you say that it could take 10 years off of you?
So I say that because my clients, they
Feel that way.
physically they feel that way. They look lighter. I often have a lot of clients say, that chronic pain I had is gone. I had one girl a few years ago, she had chronic left kidney pain. We went back, it wasn't even something about clutter or possessions, but she had kind of a traumatic experience at a grandmother's house, and that kidney pain was gone. It's unbelievable the things that we unpack and you release, and then you're free to go do the physical act of decluttering that you've been, beating yourself up for years that you can't do. And then the mind, of course, creates an additional narrative that says you're lazy, you're this, you're that. Of course, none of that is true. So yeah.
This morning I was reading some of the comments on your website, stacyscott.co.
Yes.
And I have to share. I never connected my dislike and avoidance of doing the dishes to this experience until now. I did the exercise and I did the dishes. I've got a lot of clutter and stuckness to work on. This brings a spark of hope to overcome something that makes me feel so ashamed. Thank you for the work you do. I'm listening.
I
Yeah.
don't
Holy cow. Dishes. I hate dishes. And I'll never not have dishes because we eat.
God forbid you eat. I tell my husband all the time, I'm like, we have to feed our kid again, multiple times.
Laundry. I hate
Ugh.
laundry.
This is
Oh, just
making
did
me
a
want to cry.
historic closet clean out after watching your videos for months and continuing to process things we uncovered over a year ago. Thank you for consistently showing up on here. My inner child is feeling so much release, allowing and letting go of things that no longer support the life I'm living and building. It's given freedom in capital letters. You're helping more people than you'll ever know. Lots of love, always stay magical.
Stop, I'm gonna cry.
I mean, I could go on.
I am a Cancer sun. I am a crier. So I just like love that I get to do this work in the world. It has taken me
Yeah.
so long to get here. I feel like I'm starting something, and I couldn't be happier to be where I am after all the things I've been through in my life. So
Yeah. Thank you.
that
Thank
was
you.
so sweet. Thank you.
Yes.
Sense of soul.